And so let me just quickly introduce the panel. Craig Hatkoff, who you just met. Hutch, Carpenter from Hype Innovation. You want to come up, Hutch? Judith Glaser, the author of Conversational Intelligence, who will tell you about the hormones that are affecting your conversations. Jeff Molesky from Communispace, one of the pioneers of online communities. My friend Payne, who I think is going to sit right here on the windowsill, from Fahrenheit 212, which is a rocking innovation consultancy here in New York City. They coined the term magic and money. I like that. Tarah Feinberg from Kite. The name of our tour is Where the Cathedral Meets the Bazaar, and it's about the street meeting what's big. It's about what's new meeting what's established. We also have a couple of we have everyone in this audience is interesting, but I just want to say welcome to Pettis from MakerBot. And Peter Thum from Foundry 47. Come on up here, Peter, because we're going to engage you guys in this conversation too. So we're going to do a lightning round, and I'm going to start with Craig. What's going on right now in innovation that's interesting to you?
So I probably would have answered this a little bit differently before 10 a.m. this morning, but I'm going to start with, I just had a demo of the latest version of Oculus Rift, and while I was somewhat skeptical as to how impactful this would be, I'm going to go on record. Of course, I love to be wrong. I have my Rabbi here to absolve me from sin. But when someone pays $2 billion for a company with no product ready for market, it sounds like a lot of money. I'm going to go on record, 80-20, 20%, I'm just going to be dead-ass wrong. 80% there may be something to do with the partial truth of the following statement. For $2 billion, Mark Zuckerberg, this may be the closest thing to the Louisiana Purchase that I've seen. This experience, now I'm not an expert in virtual reality, but I was really, really blown away. And not that many people have seen the latest iteration. But when someone takes $2.5 million from Kickstarter, a pair of ski goggles, and 2 iPhones, and turns it into the most immersive experience you can possibly imagine, that feels pretty disruptive to me.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Irwin, Kula. What's going on in innovation right now that's interesting to you?
Julie, it's hard to hear in the back, so if everyone could just speak up, it'd be wonderful. Thank you.
I think I'm going to have to move. I'm sitting right
here. Yeah, right.
Closer. Come closer.
Or sing.
It's true, the singing rabbit. I mean, there's so much stuff that's interesting. So I'll do the religion one. The most interesting thing for me happening in innovation right now is how people are innovating their identities. And what I call it is that people are mixing, blending, bending, and switching in ways that are unprecedented in human history. And when you think about all of the initiatives that go in to help people get along, help people understand each other, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, human capital that goes in that, it could simply be that mixing, blending, bending, and switching that's happening in the ways people are putting their identities together, independent of anyone external's coherence. It has to be just coherent to you. This is a radical way in which we're going to be living as human beings. So, innovating identity.
Great answer. I'll pick up on your theme, not by design, but because it's just right. I think
they're still having a little trouble.
Yeah, sure. So this theme of mixing, blending, and bending. I think we look at innovation and see there was this crazy bifurcation of capabilities for so long, where there was the discipline of strategy of like, where am I going to go innovate, and then the discipline of creativity and what is the magical thing I'm going to go create. And what excites me now is we're seeing this crazy convergence happening where this church and state separation, all apologies, Rabbi, is really disappearing. And the young creative people now jumping into innovation, they want to see stuff happen. They don't want to fill rooms with Post-it notes and say, wasn't that fun? They really want to see an impact. And it's this coming together of This stuff it takes to make stuff strategic and make it work as a business or as a vision, blended together with the creativity. It's this giant mashup, and I think 10 years from now, if we sit in this room, we're going to see the next generation of young creative talent thinking in a completely different way, where this boundary between creativity and what it takes to make stuff work is just going to completely disappear.
Perfect segue to Tarah.
Yeah, well, that aligns really.
Can you step away from the speaker? I just don't want the feedback if you're close to this speaker, yeah. That's great.
I'll pretend that there's, for the camera, I'll pretend that there's a seat here. So that I can build on that very easily, because for me it comes down to one word. It's about accountability. It's really about the fact that slowly but surely, on every level of anybody touching innovation on a business level, it's no longer about shiny objects or a little spike in business results or a story that you can get published in the news next week. It's really becoming about outcomes.
Great, and I can build on that as well. I think one of the most interesting things that we see going on with brands that we work with is what we're calling the democratization of innovation. So it's moving from the few to the many, or at least to the more. And what that means as we think about organizations' cultures and how they're really embracing innovation to really be able to keep pace and be much more agile. As you think about their traditional software development companies, this idea of agility in innovating in an iterative, incremental manner that's really delivering against business needs real time and continuing to keep the brand current and relevant and moving ahead. So yeah, I think it's this idea where people are coming together, they're focusing on matters that really matter, they're helping reduce the complexity of organizations and cutting through it to be able to create the most relevant, most impactful solutions.
Judith.
I hope you all like neuroscience, because I can only speak in neuroscience language when I hear what just was said here. So what we're learning, this idea of identities and new identities, there's actually places in the brain, every time you choose a new name, you get a new title, you learn something new where you can actually see yourself in a new way. You're creating a new identity inside of yourself. So the fact that human beings are now co-creating new identities, we're able to give new definition to each identity and release ourselves from the past. Most of our identities we all bring that stuff from the past with us, right? So we are who everybody said we were or we weren't. But now with new identities, we are able to put new memories, frees up our brain to actually give ourselves a boost, to become something else that we never thought we could become before. So I highly recommend that you think about yourself in terms of new identities. Who do I need to be with other people and co-create with them, and it completely frees your brain from the past, disattaches some of the things that are back here, the amygdala hijacking that we get that stops us from doing things, and actually frees us to garner new insights from others. That's what I call level 3. Those are the cocktails I wanted you to have tonight. It's level 3 cocktails. Going after what we don't know is what's happening. And I have to tell you something. The fact that kids tweet so much and give each other messaging, it's thought of as something bad, but what it's actually doing is greasing the brain for higher levels of sharing. Sharing produces oxytocin. Oxytocin enables us to collaborate and co-create more effectively. So it's the beginning of a shift in building new higher levels of oxytocin to overcome the fear hormone cortisol. So we're in a transition now where we shouldn't look at that as bad. It's the training for the runway to get into the marathons that we're all going on together. So that's, I hope that all makes sense.
Wow. Dilbert. I love Dilbert. I think it resonates for a reason. A lot of us see it in our own work lives. The thing that I've been impressed with, and I just had a great conversation with a company today, is that people are starting to trust their employees a lot more around this innovation thing. And I say that in the sense that, I've grown up, I've been in these big corporations before, and I know what it's like. You got your day job, come on, head down, get stuff done. The thing that's really changed, and we're seeing it now, it's really starting to happen, is that employees are starting to be asked their opinion, their ideas, their insight. Now, this yeah, what? I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, it turns out they don't do that. They have not historically been doing that. But what I'm seeing over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years now, is a real movement. A movement to actually get a lot more from employees, get them a lot more involved than you historically ever have. And it's healthy. It's healthy for companies because you're going to get cognitive diversity. One of your terms here. But I love that concept, cognitive diversity. We have different ways of thinking about the problem. And you want to get those heuristics, you want to get that knowledge, you want to bring it all around a problem. And employees have it. Damn it, I have had them. I've had those. I remember when I was in my 20s. I was frustrated I couldn't get enough of my ideas out there. So the movement really is about getting better tapping into this amazing resource companies have had, thousands of employees, and actually doing good things. Great conversation with a big company today. The way they use it, they get customer requests that are kind of tough. I mean, they're like, man, sort of paints and materials and things like that. So historically, what would have happened? Well, I'll get a couple guys, we'll bounce some ideas off each other, and we'll see what we come back to the customer with. You know what this customer's doing? They're actually putting out their campaigns to their broader employee base, tapping their expertise and their thinking to actually solve these customer problems. It's wonderful, fascinating, and I think it's healthy for the employees, and I think it's healthy for the corporations.
So speaking of solving things differently, I want to hand it over to you, Peter. What's interesting in your world right now?
I'll try. Can you hear me now? I think one of the most exciting things that I have observed through my work, which doesn't have to do directly with my work, is that because of technology, there are several billion people in the world who have never been participating in the top of the global economy before, who are now influencing the kinds of things that they want from global corporations. Now, the conversation that just took place was largely, I think, about the companies that we buy products from here in the United States and the most wealthy countries in Asia and in Europe. But I think it's very exciting that there are 1 billion people in Africa, probably about 1 billion people in China, probably about 500 million people in India who are all coming online, mostly through handheld devices. Most of those people never had a landline before, so they leapfrog that technology, and they're going to be influencing what we receive as products because they're now participants, and I think that's very exciting.
Thank you. And Bree, can I just get you to probably say something? And him here. And Bree Pettis from MakerBot.
So before we started MakerBot, we started this website called Thingiverse.com, and it doesn't make us any money. In fact, it costs us a lot of money. But it's one of those things where you go to Thingiverse.com, and if you're a designer, you share your ideas, you give them away for free. You let anybody download your designs. They can download them and make them on a MakerBot. And what ends up happening is when you give people a platform for sharing, they do wonderful, sometimes practical, sometimes completely absurd things. And there's something with innovation that's very close to the absurd. If you want to be more innovative, do stupid things. Do things that don't make that tickle your fancy, that make you feel like this is probably a bad idea, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, yes, I am going to add explosives to this project. Whatever, one of those things where it's like, go for it. So like, I was a school teacher, and my job as a school teacher was to empower middle school students to try out different ways of expressing themselves. And my life is dedicated to empowering people with creative tools. And did that as a school teacher, and now I do that with MakerBot, where we make a creative tool for people to explore 3D printing. And whatever your passion is, add 3D printing to it and something interesting will happen.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you very much. Craig.
I can't resist, since Bree set that up so perfectly. About 13 years ago, when I was first hit with the idea of launching the Tribeca Film Festival, boy, did I think that was a stupid idea that would never work. It made no sense, and here we are, year 13. So Bree, thank you for reminding me that we need a lot of stupidity out there to come up with some new ideas. I just want to sort of reference, tonight's event is called The Cathedral and the Bazaar, and I don't know how many of you people know the exact reference, but anybody here ever hear of a guy by the name of Eric Raymond? Might have had a little influence, or maybe not, but The open source movement was basically, open source was coined by Eric, which has to do with all the things that Bree was talking about. That people will do things for free, some of them may be good, some of them may not be so good, but with enough eyeballs, all bugs will be shallow. And so I think that's one of the big takeaways. And I guess I'll just finish with one other thought, because I said if you'd asked me before 10 o'clock what I thought was really interesting going on in innovation, today we announced that the winner of our Adam Smith Prize, presented by the Harvard Business Review, is actually Pope Francis.
Pope Francis?
Yeah. And I may hand it over to Irwin because he's much more eloquent, but his book, Evangeli Gaudium, which I'm sure you all have on your night table, is also our book of the year. And Irwin, now could you sort of get me out of this hole I just dug myself into? This is actually pretty serious.
This is the Rabbi saving the entrepreneur and the Pope. Very good. Oh my gosh. On the 7th day of Passover, no less. Might as well do it up completely. It actually, I think it relates almost. It relates to so much of what we've been talking about.
Close to your mouth. Close to your mouth.
Products, yes, product services, business models, etc., etc. All those are really important in innovation in all those spaces, and everyone in this room knows more about all those things than I do. But this next place where it looks like we're innovating that has a lot to do with this accountability issue, whoever said accountability, right? A lot to do with this accountability is like behavioral innovation. And it's the behavior of individual human beings at an innovative level that's you wouldn't expect it, that becomes another place, another of the innovation space. We think of innovation spaces as cultures, we think of innovation spaces in terms of the development of products, etc. But there's an innovation space in here that really produces and can produce, and this is a lot of what Judith does too, that produces new sorts of behaviors. And behavioral innovation may be one of the most important forms of innovation that we're going to have in the next round. And so when we read the Pope's piece, both Craig and I said, yikes, look at this guy. Okay, I mean, he is finding a way, he's doing a whole set of things that classic disruptive innovation theory talks about. One, he's asking very, very seriously, what is the job religion is supposed to get done? Is the job of religion, here at Catholicism, I know it's weird for me to say, but is the job of Catholicism to ensure that no one has an abortion? Is the job of Catholicism to ensure, no, the job of Catholicism, he made a point, is simply to nurture and cultivate joy and justice. Now, you're talking about a 45, 55 page joy and justice repeated if you word cloud the document, and you will see the word joy appears more than any. Well, I don't think that the average person, surely in the West, thinks about Catholicism and says, yeah, joy. And I'm not criticizing. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that's a tremendous. I mean, we talk about branding and people here who are phenomenal and innovative and thinking about innovating brands. I mean, think about what he did to the brand. Okay, by simply asking disruptive innovation theory question 101. What is the job to get done? Second, he made his piece accessible and usable to anybody across every boundary. Okay, which of course leaves him open to the critique that it's inauthentic, that it's pandering, that it's not a good enough product. But it's a good enough product, it's good enough to get the job done. And good enough to get the job done is such an essential part of Clay's theory, especially given that you're primarily going to be talking to non-incumbents. You're primarily going to be talking to non-consumers. And he understands, surely in speaking to the West, the majority of Catholics are non-consumers. And so to think about creating an accessible and usable way of speaking that cuts to the core of what for him is Catholicism. This is disruptive innovation at a very high level, yet alone he uses popular culture, the whole range of other things. But I think it's to Craig's credit that when he thinks about disruptive innovation and disruptive innovation awards, it is such a wide-ranging way of thinking where innovation can play out.
I was going to say that.
So I have to ask you a question. So is he redefining the definition of religion in a way? Is he creating a whole new set of definitions that are more appropriate for the opening that this world needs to have?
I think we're so early in the game. The other day I spoke to 4 cardinals. This sounds like a joke. 4 cardinals. No, I really did. There was the cardinal from Romania, a cardinal from France, a cardinal from South Korea. That was the only person that agreed with me. And actually, he was very funny. I read a book called Yearnings, and he said, I looked at that, I barely understand, I looked at that book, he says, and we Catholics have a problem with desire. I said, don't worry, we Jews have no problem with desire. But I think we're at the very beginning. I said to this group of cardinals and bishops from around the world that we're moving, at least in the West, to a post-religion religion. And that's going to be very, very complicated for people who can't ask very, 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 very basic, what's the job done questions about whatever their take is, whatever their perspective. Post-religion religion is going to take the best, it's going to transcend, it's going to include the best and transcend the worst. And that is going to be a very messy process. But I think he's opening up the possibility for Catholics, and much more interestingly, in my mind, non-Catholics, to think about religion in very, very, very kind of, you know what the metrics are? When you're finished with this practice, when you're finished with this piece of wisdom, has it made you more joyful? Has it made you more compassionate? Has it made you more understanding? Has it made you more self-aware? And those are the metrics, and if not, you ought not be doing the religion.
So what this is doing, if he is giving new definition, he actually is changing the brain to accept a whole new way of looking at the world, not just a small view, but a big view. So we know, for example, the word collaboration in the dictionary is cohorting with the enemy. Collaboration, the word you use every day, in our brain is hardwired. To collaborate is to cohort with the enemy. So you're always questioning whether the person you're interacting with is somebody you can trust. The word co-creation is not. It's about creating the same picture of reality together. Instead of you and I having different realities and then fighting over whose reality is right, which is what we do most of the time when we defend our point of view, this all of a sudden changes the meaning of how human beings can engage with each other. So religion, he might be the beginning of a revolution in religion changing.
I think that's why we gave him the award.
I'll probably butcher the quote, but it's really a remarkable document that's available online. Evangelii Gaudium, to say Pope Francis. But he said today, being a Catholic is like living through Lent without Easter. That's the Pope, not me. And that anybody who's evangelizing should not like they just came home from a funeral. With that, I'm done.
I want to open it up to see if there are any top-of-mind questions that you all have for this august group. And if not, we're going to go back out and do cocktails and conversation. Anybody got a question that they want to ask? There's one way in the back. Stand up, stand up.
I love the panel. I love Irwin, Kula. I always learn from him. My question is, since you're going out on an innovation tour, and it's an old question that I'd like to co-create with you in a new way, how can that innovators tour reflect the diversity that of having more women, people of color, because I find myself lost.
Amen, sister. The question is about diversity, right? We put this tour, this group together on your typical innovators shoestring, and we went out and asked and invited a lot of people, and the people who showed up are here tonight, and by the way, we're thrilled. We're going to keep inviting people. Come to Boston, you're going to see a whole other group of people. I love the question, and I honor it. And with that, I'm going to ask Andrew Dent to come up and tell us what we have outside this wall that we can all go and explore. And another meaning of diversity is this materials science lab that's right outside our door.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Andrew Dent. I run the materials library that you'll actually be seeing as you go have your cocktails. Thank you for coming here. I appreciate it. And also thank you for bringing the energy and optimism I got out of this room. I was amazed, actually. I do a lot of talks and conferences and workshops, and the energy that I'm getting from this group is just amazing. It's actually really has, it made me feel good about it. What we have outside, well, the company you're in now currently is called Sandow. Sandow owns a number of different brands, some of which are magazines. You'll see them here, Interior Design, Worth, Lux. You'll see the Fred Segal blend thing behind you. We also own the Fred Segal brand. We also own a company called Material Connection. 17 years old, world's largest innovative materials library. While you're having your cocktails over in the other area, take a trip back in that direction into our materials library. We have a group out here, the ones with the actual tags against their chests. They're happy to give you a tour. We basically help clients, whether they are car manufacturers, building manufacturers, people who make chairs, clothes, shoes, whatever. We help them find materials, we help them find better materials. Materials that you'll find there are very, I guess it's very apt, because the idea of this event is where cathedral meets the bazaar. And we have the materials from the huge huge companies, the massive multinationals, we have their materials. But we also have the materials that come from very small operations, those who are basically making materials in their garages. They're put side by side. All we care about is, are they innovative, are they new, are they different, are they worth it for our clients to use? So I'd welcome you to come enjoy cocktails, visit with us, and come and have a tour through our space. You'll actually learn something new. We have just the most amazing sort of petting zoo of materials in the world.